second.
Have we heard from Councillor Harris at all, whether he's
No.
okay?
He might join us any minute, I'm sure. He's
Who
usually
knows?
pretty.
We'll see. Yeah.
Okay, you may go ahead.
All right, we have a quorum, so I wanted to welcome every one of you to our meeting. And it feels like the first day of school, doesn't it? I mean, we've just had our summer holidays and now we're hard at work starting, and it feels like a kind of a new year, you know. The first, there's two things I wanted to say before we get into our agenda. The first one is I really do want to acknowledge Christine Manuel, who passed away a month or two ago. Christine has really put her heart and soul into the historic work of the city. I don't know whether any of you sat on the H&S committee. Yes, Kathy did, and I did, and it was a great pleasure. She was the chair, and she really did a great job. And you know, she's a loss to us as a committee, and also to the city in general. So you know, our sympathies go out to her family, and each one of us are just a little poorer because she's passed away. So I didn't want to start this meeting without sort of acknowledging the kinds of things that she's been involved in over the years. Second thing I wanted to say is thank you to each one of you that have been involved in Open Air Dunlop. It's been really terrific. I haven't had a chance to be there very often. A couple of times I've dropped in. Thank you, David Moore, for all the work you did in terms of organizing. We always need somebody to be the spark plug, and you were the spark plug this summer. And I think, do we have one more weekend yet, David? Yeah, we do. So I think that Open Air Dunlop and our participation in it has been just really helpful in terms of just spreading the good news, you know. And we've gotten quite a bit of mileage out of our activities, and I'm very pleased with that. So I think that you know, pat on the back to every one of you who gave up your valuable Saturdays that you're not going to get back. So thank you for that, and thank you very much for your leadership, David. All right, the very first item on our agenda is our budget update. And I got a note from Tammy that said, at this point, we have approved expenditures of $14,600. And if I look at our budget, we have a total of $23,600. Not saying that we have to spend it all, but that's kind of the big picture. So we have committed $14,600, and our total budget is $23,600. So I see Shelley, and do we need Thomas? Were you going to say something about our street signs, or let me ask Shelley to speak first.
Thank you, Chair Claire. I was just wondering when we have a discussion about what we do with that final budget, because I know I was just thinking about Open Air Dunlop. We did talk about buying some tablecloths and perhaps a tent. And so, you know, maybe not right now or in this meeting, but I guess I just want to know when that budget maybe ends, so that if we do have money left over, I did put together or pass along some quotes for some tablecloths. I can get the tent, which I did. But when is that discussed or decided on, if because of the end of the budget year?
Okay, just for everybody's clarification, the end of the budget year is December 31st of this year. And it seems to me, and I know you want to speak about this, Thomas, but it seems to me that we already sort of by email said, yeah, we can go ahead and buy those little items. But Thomas, I'll let you in on that one.
Thank you, Councillor. Chair. I only have one thing really to add. And hello, everybody. Nice to see everybody again. I don't want to jump into it right away, but nice to see everybody's faces. We have, I believe, an amount sort of earmarked for our street signs, and I believe the quote came in actually above the amount that we had earmarked. So I'm just going to find my email here. Sorry, street signs quote total is $6,414 to get all the signs made for all the streets that were provided to us. I'm going to be meeting with staff actually next week who are making the signs to confirm the quantity of signs that they're making to make sure that that number encapsulates all of the signs. I think they did the count, but I haven't actually met with them to confirm these little details. But I believe we had it was less than that. I'm not. Tammy, can you confirm, or do you know how much we had earmarked? Because you said that we need to ask the committee to expend more.
Yeah, I just going back to the minutes from the last meeting. For historic neighborhood street signs, it was $6,600 we earmarked.
Oh, okay, then we're
But
okay.
then for
actually.
some reason, I thought it was more than that for some reason. Was it more than that?
No,
that's
it's
the budget that I have here. It's 6,600 for the street signs. And I guess the only thing that we hadn't put on our budget was the, if I'm not mistaken, was the tent and the tablecloths, which I don't recall what the number was there. And then did we, in our budget, we carried $6,000 for a consultant to designate 2 buildings, and I think. Craig, if I'm not mistaken, at our last meeting, there was a resolution to proceed with that.
That's correct. Yeah, for the 2. So we agreed on that, and we agreed on the street signs that we would spend that money. So.
All right. So it sounds to me like the street signs are within our budget, and I guess the caution then comes is that we would have something like $3,000 left in our budget after we do the expenditure on street signs. Is that reasonable? Thomas?
Thank you, Chair. I think that is reasonable. I want to ask the Chair if did we earmark any funds for listed plaques for listed buildings?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
$3,000.
$3,000. Okay, so let me just see what did I get. Okay, so let me just give the committee an update. We got replies from 18 property owners requesting, or agreeing to participate or to receive a plaque for a listed building, and each plaque is $309. So when you add that all up, it's $5,500 before tax. So 5562 times 1.3, we're looking at 6285 for the 18 plaques. So I think that may push us a bit over for the year.
It will.
So I'm not sure if this committee maybe want to do half and then we'll do half the year following, or do we want to do as many as we can with the funds we have left over?
All right. David.
I might be jumping the queue in terms of the agenda. I apologize, Chair.
Yeah, well, it's still a budget discussion.
Okay.
You can talk about that when we get to the signs as well.
Okay, yeah, maybe we'll have a discussion on that item there. My apologies.
No worries. No.
All right.
No worries.
David, you wanted to say something?
Oh, yes, thank you. Just on one small budget item was a small stipend, I believe is the word, or expenses for Steve Travers as requested for his walking tours this summer, and he has requested $100. And I think that is buried somewhere in our budget. And also I wanted to say that I'm certain I have seen historic street signs, new historic street signs going up. I don't know if Thomas, you've had notice, but I can be 99%. I've seen new signs already installed in the West Village and Queen's Park. Thank you.
Really? Well, things are moving ahead without us even knowing it. I guess when we look at the budget, then if we do all the street signs and all the listed plaques, then we're going to be short by about $3,000 in round numbers. And to answer your question, David, on the town crier, we in our budget have $200 set aside for him. So I think that we, if I'm not mistaken, some email somewhere said that we were ready to pay him, you know, for some of the great work that he did. So, Tammy, yeah, did you?
So if the money's coming out of the budget, I just need the committee to approve the expenditure for the minutes. That's all for the $100.
For the $100 to Steve.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Do we need a motion for that?
I just need to make sure the committee's approved it and stuff like that,
Okay.
not a formal motion, so.
Okay. Are we, I see Shelley and I got Kathy too. So Shelley, why don't you go ahead?
I was just wanting to say I approve that.
Yeah, okay. All right. And Deborah, I see that too. Okay. Are we all in on a consensus there that we'll pay Steve $100? Perfect. Okay.
And will we have an invoice for him? Will we get an invoice for him?
No.
I suppose you could ask that. Kathy, you wanted to say something? You're on mute, Kathy.
Okay.
Please
Hi.
sign. Says you're on mute.
I'm off mute now, right?
You're right.
Okay. What I was going to say was, I think we set aside a budget of $200, and usually that's for a couple of walking tours and maybe a proclamation that he might do throughout the year. This year, he has done much more than that in terms of the walking tours. And each one of the walking tours, honestly, I think for the majority of them were at least between 10 and 14 people. And he's coming again this coming weekend. I think, David, you'll have to confirm. No, not this weekend, the next weekend. Yeah, the weekend after. So he does plan on coming. So I'm wondering if we can maybe wiggle a little bit more money for him, other than, you know, maybe go to 150. If we've designated 200, could we do something a little better than the 100 he's asked for? Because he's done so much more for us, and he is promoting tourism. Now, part of the conversation I also had with Kelly McKenna at the BIA was I've asked her to, if there's a way to incorporate his walking tours into their budget for next year, which she is willing to take to, I guess, the committee when they talk about open air Dunlop and what happens next year, because she said it's going to be bigger and better and more things happening. So they would certainly consider, because, you know, she has also seen how much Steve has done. So I'm just.
All right. I think that's a great suggestion, actually, and I hope that the BIA takes that up next year. You know, we put in $200 for Steve Travers, and my thought on it is that, Tammy, could you ask him for an invoice for $200 and we just pay the $200? Let's be generous for a change, because here's a guy that, you know, puts a lot of heart and soul into it, and why not? I mean, $150 to $200. Let's reward him with $200 and be done with it. Any comment, David? I thought I saw your hand.
Yes, I would quite agree. Thank you very much. He's most deserving, and I can contact him for an invoice and get that channeled.
Yeah, that would be
forward.
great if you could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get him to
I've been in touch with him, and while we're going to be there this weekend, the 11th. We won't be there on the 18th because there isn't an open air Dunlop, but he's going to do a walking tour on the 18th, just the same, and I'm going to help him advertise that this weekend.
All right.
Thank
Well,
you.
that's great. Yes, ask him to direct an invoice to Tammy for the $200, and then we'll move that on. All right, now back to our budget question.
So we approved the expenditure for $200,
Yes.
right?
Yes, that was thumbs up all the way around.
Okay.
So now then the question is about the street signs versus the plaque signs. And it seems to me like we have 18 requests. Do we get a better deal if we do them in bulk, or does it really matter, Craig?
I think Thomas might know that answer better than me, because there is a certain number of how many plaques that we have. One of the thoughts I had too is if the budget is that we can't do everything, I think my feeling is let's get the 18 plaques done because people are requesting it, and I think that other owners and stuff might be inspired to list, and then the street signs we can continue on the ones we're missing the next year, and we might add some more anyways next year. So that's my 2 cents.
All right, any more discussion? I see Shelley with her thumbs up. Any other comments on that? Kathy?
I just want to be clear on the budget. We originally for plaques for designated properties, we budgeted $6,600. Is that correct?
No, for designated buildings, we're 3 at 600, which is $1,800. And I think we spent that, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, I was thinking about the signage. Okay, so for signage, it's $6,600, which is what was budgeted, and we're just a little over that.
No, we're just a little under that.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so 6,600 was budgeted for signage. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And then for the 18, so did we not put in a separate item for listed plaques versus
Yes.
designated plaques?
We said 10 listed plaques at 300, so that's $3,000.
Right.
So I think what Craig's proposal is that we got 18 requests.
Right.
Let's fill those requests, which are going to be round numbers, $6,000.
Right.
And then let's postpone the street signs until next budget. That's what Craig's proposal is.
Well, or at least,
No.
my thought is, or at least do as many street signs as we can with.
Right.
Right, like if we can do, I don't know, whatever amount, we should still be doing those.
Yeah.
That was my thought.
Sure. All right, but the priority is on the 18 plaques. All right. Any more discussion on that?
Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm still confused. We originally budgeted for plaques for designated properties. Did we did the same thing for listed properties. We had a budget figure. And then we also had a budget figure for signage.
Street signs. Yep.
Street signs, yeah, street signs. So, and then with those budgetary figures that we had in place, we still have approximately $3,000 left?
No, if we put up all the street signs and we put up all the listed plaques,
Yeah.
we're going to be $3,000 short.
We're going to be 3,000 short. So we wouldn't be doing a tent package this year.
A what package?
Okay, a tent package.
Oh, no, we're going to do the tent package.
Oh, okay, that's what I'm trying to clarify.
Oh,
So we would do the tent package. We are doing the signage as much as we can, plus the 18 listed plaques. Is that correct? Do I have that right?
that's the proposal that I've got on the table at the moment.
And then that leaves us with 0.
That's about right.
So we would have nothing to spend between now and December 31st.
That's right.
Okay.
Thomas, and then Sarah.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to basically confirm what you were saying. It's just that we had allocated a certain amount of funds for the plaques, but there has been more interest than anticipated. We had 33 buildings or 33 properties that received an invitation and 18 confirmed rather than 10. So we had we had more success than we anticipated, essentially. So now we're just going to take money out of one budget and put it into another to pay for that project. That's all. Thank you.
Yep. All right, Sarah, and then Shelley.
Thank you. I'm not sure if this is the right time, but we just started talking about the tent and the tablecloth. I was just wondering if that would be something that we've maybe pushed to next year because we have other perhaps more visible things that we could be using that money with. Like I remember we just bought tablecloths, I think the beginning of this year or the end of last year or something. So we do have fresh tablecloths. They're just not logoed. I kind of remember us discussing that because people stand in front of the table anyways, that the logo kind of gets lost. So, and we, have been able to borrow a tent anyways. And I noticed that at the open air Dunlop, they seem to be providing tents for some people. So it's not like we wouldn't have a tent at some of these things. So maybe if we can get full things wiped off of our to-do list rather than doing part and parcel, it might be a good thing.
That's a great suggestion. Shelley. You're on mute, Shelley.
Sorry, that's kind of what I was also going to say is because now it's September getting into October. I don't know how much use of a tent and tablecloths we're going to get. So my recommendation was that we need to finalize the logo, and then B, we do the tent and the tablecloths and maybe a new banner or something in the new year with the new budget for, hopefully spring when we need to be outside with the tent.
Does anybody recall how much money we put aside for the tent and the tablecloth and that kind of thing? I think.
And my apologies, I can't find it in my notes right now because I know I got quotes from Flags Unlimited, and so I have to look that up, but it may be in somebody else's emails.
Okay. All right. So just to summarize then where we're at, the idea is that we would postpone the tent and the tablecloth and not spend that money this year, put it in our budget for next year, that we would do the 18 listed plaques, and then do as many street signs as we can afford in our budget. Is that sort of clear as to where our thinking is?
And I will promise to get an exact quote for the tent and the tablecloths so that we know what it would be for next year.
Sure, that'd be great. Craig.
The only thing I was just, do we have anything in our budget for the Heritage Awards, or do we wait? Or are we doing that like in February, so it'd be in next year's budget? Because if there's nothing left, which is fine to use it all, but if we have nothing left for the Heritage Awards, then that could be a problem too.
Yeah, we have $2,500 in the Heritage Awards. That's for this year, and of course next year we would, in February. We've already spent that money, I guess, and next year we would set it up again. The other thing is that we have a $2,000 contingency. So if we run into some sort of emergency, then we still have $2,000 to apply if we wanted to do that. All right, are we in agreement on the budget question? Kathy?
I just had, one of the other things we talked about over the last open air Dunlop is that currently right now we're borrowing David's tent and David's table. David, is it your table that we're, yeah. So we were also wanting to include in the budget, which we don't have that number for, is 2 tables. Because we find with all the material that we have out, we don't really have a table to put all the artifacts out on. And, there's probably more information that we could be putting out than we currently are. So we'd like to also include 2 of the, maybe a 5-foot table and a 6-foot table. one of those folding ones into the
Good.
budget as well. And we can, maybe I can get that price quote and provide it for the budget for the new year.
Sure.
Just get them from Costco.
Yeah.
I don't have a Costco card, but they
I
usually
do.
run
We'll figure it out.
around between 40 and $60, I think.
Kaylee?
I just wanted to confirm if all this stuff going into the budget is actually going to be discussed and voted on like the other stuff, or we're just putting it in and they'll be bought with a sort of a discussion or like voting as we had before on how much things cost.
Well, I think that where we're at is as I outlined, we have sort of, we're going to do this, in terms of this is first and that's second, and we'll do as many street signs as we can. Next year, we'll deal with the tent and the tables and the tablecloth, and yeah, we'll move along that way, and we should be well within our budget at this point. Yeah, Kaylee, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just sort of meaning next year, because it seems like we're budgeting for stuff for next year, but not really discussing price or anything. Like I know this year we have stuff already budgeted out, and we have like for the walking tours, the $200 that was sort of budgeted out before. I just wondered if for the next budget, if we will discuss some of the items and not just sort of pre-approved sort of things.
You know what, and that's a really good point. And I do think that it's probably for our next meeting, and I'll make a note of it, that we should discuss what our budget should be for next year, because that's already in the works anyway. So that's a very good reminder. And Tammy, if you would make a note that we need to figure out what our budget is going to be for next year. And we could do that at our next meeting. Yeah, go ahead, Tammy, and then I see Thomas as well.
Just because you're changing your expenditures around, and I want to make sure it's noted in the minutes correctly for the amounts. I don't know if we want to wait till next meeting to kind of straighten those expenditures, what you're planning for, because I know you got 60, was it $3,000 for historic sign? No, the plaques, but you're changing it to more than that. So I might have to have a better notation of how much is being actually approved for that.
Okay.
The proper amount. So if we can get that figured out even for next meeting, then we can talk about, I can just put it in the minutes for next meeting. Just
All right.
so,
Well, we could do it for this meeting. I think that
just so I can straighten it around, because if anybody looks at the meeting and it's only $3,000 was approved for that, we are spending $6,000, it might, accountability and transparency. So
fair enough. And I think that so let me just see if I can put this into words, that the committee agrees that we pay for 18 plaques for listed buildings, and that we spend up to, so that's going to be 6,000, up to say $3,000 for the historic signs. And that thirdly, that we include an amount in our next budget for tablecloth, tent, and tables. Does that capture?
yeah.
Okay. Do we have a consensus around the table for that? Yeah, okay. So Tammy, if you can put that in the minutes, then
Yeah.
that gives us the direction, gives you
Just
the
kind of
direction.
closes the loop a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Thomas, I think you've got your hand up.
Chair, I was just going to say, I think we don't actually know our budget for 2022 until January 2022.
That's true.
So we typically will have those discussions, Kaylee. At that point, we can move things around. And I do have like sort of the final numbers for both the plaques and the street signs. So Tammy, I can give you those figures, and you can just say, rather than spend in the minutes, rather than spend $3,000, the committee had agreed to increase the budget for this item to $6,800 or whatever I said it
Okay,
was.
that sounds good.
And yeah, so it's just a moving things from one column to another. It's not like we're
Yeah, exactly.
spending more
I
money.
just want more accountability and transparency. That's all, just so that, you know.
It's always good. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
if you want to send that to me, Thomas, that would be awesome.
But then I think also what we need to do is we need to put our ask forward to the to council, I guess, or through the planning department for our budget for next year.
Well, it's
And
the
that
clerk,
is-
the legislative for the
Yeah.
committee's budget,
Yeah,
our department,
and-
this department here. So you need
Yeah.
to send it to Wendy.
Okay, so if we can, then let's work on the budget for our next meeting. And maybe I can draft something and then we'll see where we go. Okay, anything further on our budget? If we keep moving at this pace, we're going to be here till midnight. All right, the Heritage Stakeholder Meeting, the next item on the agenda. Who has this one? Is that you, Craig?
Well, yeah, there's three of us that sort of did a subcommittee, Kathy, Shelley, and myself. And we've had 2 meetings since our last Heritage meeting in the summer. And we came up with basically a list of people that stakeholders that we would like to include. And we also had sort of a schedule or agenda for the meeting. And we sent that out to everyone to have a look at. And there were some questions about some of the main topics that we were going to be discussing, which we got. Yeah, I guess it'd be open to discussion now. We haven't finished it. We haven't sent out the invitations. And so we can discuss it now. I'm also working on a more condensed PowerPoint to share at the meeting. Yeah.
All right. And can you just, what's the date of this stakeholder meeting?
It's the next meeting that we're going to have, which is Wednesday, October, is it 9th, I think?
All right.
The 6th.
Or 6th.
6th, okay.
So it would be in place of, that's what I was going to say when you're saying about the budget. It'd be in place of this meeting.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's fine. Yeah, no problem there. And do you need any direction from this committee at this point, Craig?
Well, I mean, we sent it out, and I guess we just wanted to have any suggestions. First of all, for the list of people we're trying to we were going to contact, if anybody had someone else that they would suggest that we add, or if anyone had any questions about, who we put in the stakeholders meeting. And then the main thing also is we wanted to discuss, how we were going to do the agenda and sort of the flow of the meeting.
All right. Anybody got any comments, thoughts, questions about that?
Now, both Kaylee and Sarah sent some comments in. Has everybody had a chance to read through those? And maybe either Kaylee and or Sarah want to, talk a little bit further about your comments.
All right. Kaylee or Sarah? Sarah.
Yeah, thanks. I think the way we both read it, because I think we had similar comments, it's just that it's different than I think it was originally proposed. And I'm not sure if the way it was written is that you were asking those questions or you were going to sort of educate on those as a topic and then ask for input from someone else. Like, I think the first one is about designating buildings, but like we as a committee know why we do that. Like we should be educating other people, not asking them why we should do it. So if it's more in the lines of, do you have any buildings that you know of that should be designated? Is that where you were kind of going? Or it just seemed like less educating and more generally asking what we probably should already know.
All right, Craig, do you want to respond to that?
I can respond to that. I think maybe that the wording is, why should we do it? It's more the idea that what can some of these different groups, how can they help us increase the number of listed and designated buildings? So I think that question is probably better stated, is that, these are things we think are important. How can you assist us in increasing the number of listed and designated buildings in Barrie? I think that's for sure probably better worded. Does that make sense, Sarah?
Yeah, that one is definitely better, like a better understanding of it. I'm just wondering, like, so are you going to come to them and say, give them suggestions on how they can help us, or they're going to come up with suggestions on how they can help us?
Well, I think it was the idea that they're in the group that we maybe, if we're going to talk about that discussion, is what are some ideas that they could have to help assist us in increasing the number of listed and designated buildings in Barrie. Because they would have a different viewpoint or different connections, and that might help further. We can get more. So yeah, go ahead, Kathy.
Yeah. And it wasn't, yes, we do know about designations, but a lot of the groups that we have, that we are wanting to talk to, we have had a bit of a partnership somewhat along the way. Some we have not at all. But because of their networking capabilities, so the Sandbox is great, I think, for marketing and branding, can maybe help with communication stuff. Tourism, obviously, the tourism end of things, to let them know that they can help us get the message out. So it's a broader messaging, I guess. And with all these items, so it's going to be, I don't think it's going to be that formal. I think what we're really hoping for is great conversation and ideas and suggestions from everyone that wants to participate, because we're going to send these invitations out, and maybe some of the groups will decide they don't think they have anything to offer, or they're too busy or can't make it. So it's a list. It's, these are the people that we figure around town and within the community organizations that can be really most helpful. And then just go from there, because they can help us. Like the BIA can reach out to local business in a way that we cannot, without having to go door to door to door, which doesn't work. We don't have enough resources to be able to do that. But if we can get them involved in the messaging, then maybe there'll be a ripple down effect, and they can also understand what it is we're trying to achieve and getting the message out, because we really don't have great marketing. We don't have a brand. I mean, people don't even know who Barrie Heritage is. For most people don't know.
I think that puts it in a nutshell quite well. I mean, what we're looking at is doing some education to these groups and then asking them, how can they help us? Craig, I know that I've got Shelley and Kaylee both wanting to speak yet. Is there something specific that we need to deal with tonight, or is this something that we can kind of polish up between, like by email, in the next, say, week or two, and then get you on your way for October the 6th?
Well, we have to send out the invitations as soon as we can.
Yes.
And the invitations, that is basically, we'd love you to be involved with this. And we have sort of the 4 areas that we wanted to look at, but we can word it as, and these are areas, these are projects or things that we think are important that we're going to be discussing. But we should get the invitations out as soon as possible. And then like the PowerPoint and the like the changing some of the wording on that sort of stuff, you can do that by email.
Yeah.
All right, so Shelley, you're up to bat now, and then Kaylee.
Thank you, Claire. The only thing I was going to ask actually is Thomas, I wanted the name of the lady that is running the master tourism plan. I remember I sat in on that webinar and I can't remember her name because we want to send an invitation to her. What was the lady that chaired that webinar for the master tourism plan? Because you were on it.
Tourism Barrie?
No, but yes, the master tourism plan, when the committee presented it. Is it Debbie? Like, who's in charge of the master tourism plan?
Let me see. I think her name is Catherine.
Catherine?
Who's the executive director of Tourism Barrie?
Right.
Kathleen Trainer,
That's it. There you go.
No,
Kathleen Trainer.
not Kathleen Trainer. It was somebody else.
somebody from the actual city,
Yes,
city.
that sat in. Okay, we can take it offline, but
There
that's,
is a Stephanie Schlichter. She's the
No,
director of Invest
I
Barrie,
know
but
Stephanie and I know Kathleen Trainer.
Is there a Debbie Grant? Is there a
Why don't
Deborah
you-
Grant?
Why don't you two figure it out
Okay.
between you, and then we'll take it from there. Okay.
Okay.
Kaylee?
Where's Kaylee?
Yeah, I wondered if it'd be beneficial to have like a bigger presentation with everybody together. Like Craig's doing at the start, but go into more depth with some of the other themes instead of breaking out. Because people might not have their ideas right then, they might have to come back with them. So would it be sort of more concise rather than such a long meeting as well? Because people are gonna have to pay attention for that long, and everybody's busy. If it'd be better to have like a more thorough, in-depth presentation and then ask sort of for feedback so people can think about it and then come back rather than going into separate groups and trying to get the ball rolling on some of these individual sort of topics. But if we think if we did it sort of more at a meeting, we could have the general public involved as well, because they're also a stakeholder in stuff that we do as well.
All right. I would assume that the general public would be involved in that. The meeting would be sort of recorded or broadcast or whatever we do. I don't know. I mean, it seems to me that perhaps what we should be doing is putting our thoughts and questions to Craig and to the subcommittee, and let's say put a deadline on it that, you know, we do it within the next week, and then they can sort of finalize it, because I think you know, wordsmithing it around the table here is probably not going to be terribly effective. Whereas if the subcommittee if we can feed our ideas to the subcommittee and let them work out the details, I think that may be the best approach.
So,
Are you okay with that, Craig? To kind of, you know, have everybody respond let's say within, today's Wednesday, so, you know, let's do it by the end of the week kind of thing. And if we can do that, then we can get the invitations out, and Craig and your committee, you can kind of polish it up and finish it off. How's that? That works, Kathy?
I just to, I think it was Kaylee that was just saying this, sorry. Just your point from the public's perspective, maybe one of the things we could do prior to the meeting is put out a message, you know, how we do something in the advance about, you know, the Heritage Awards or Heritage nomination time. We have enough time that we could put something out in Barrie this week, is it called? This Week in Barrie? This Week in Barrie about the special Heritage meeting or stakeholder meeting on October 6th. You know, feel free to listen in. I mean, it's listen in only, but they could still see what's going on. And if you have any, you know, comments, however that was worded, it could go out. And
Sure.
It could also go out on the city's Facebook page under events.
Yeah. Are you okay with that, Thomas?
Yeah, absolutely. I can work with our communications team to craft some language. Well, I'd probably work with the committee first and then get that over to our communications team. There may be a small fee for putting an ad out in a paper. They're not cheap ads.
No, I'm talking about the regular weekly thing the city puts out. The city does a whole page on this week, and it's called This Week in Barrie.
Yeah,
and it's got all the
okay.
that are happening, right?
So no ad specifically.
We've never had to pay for that before.
No, I was thinking you meant like an ad in the paper.
No, in This Week in Barrie, and then also on the Facebook page, the city's Facebook page, they have an events where you put your event in, and you could, somebody could put the event in.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah. Do a little marketing for.
If that helps, Kaylee, like, is that what you were looking for?
Yeah, I think that helps to get the public, get some public information out there. All right, so can I ask each of you to have a review of what this committee has done and make any comments to Craig and the committee, let's say by the end of this week, so that we can, they can finish it up and get it done. All right, Thomas.
Just one quick question. Is there another meeting for the subcommittee?
No, the October meeting will be our stakeholder meeting.
Sorry, I meant for the subcommittee for planning the stakeholder meeting. Is there another meeting scheduled for the group?
No.
No, okay.
No. But I
maybe
think
maybe we should
do that by Zoom or by email, try to figure it out. Or
I was gonna just ask if there is gonna be another meeting, if I could be invited to that.
No.
Help the committee. No. Okay.
We're not inviting you.
Too quick with that, Jeff.
We need all the help we can get, of course. Absolutely.
Sure. I'll leave that with Craig. Okay, Craig's running that, and he can connect with you. Shelley.
I was just going to say, I think it's the understanding that because it is our regular meeting, that all of the committee members we're hoping will attend the actual shareholder meeting.
Stakeholder meeting, yes.
Stakeholder, yes.
We haven't issued shares yet, but we're going to, I'm sure. No, that would be the expectation. And I happen to just have something else going on that night, but I will be there to welcome everybody, and I will be there to close it up. But I'll duck out in the halfway part. So anyway, have we any more comments on our stakeholder meeting? All right, the rest of the agenda is going to go quickly because the next item is heritage plaques, and I think we've already covered that. Unless there's somebody that's got something else to say about it. No. Okay.
Oh wait, no wait, I do.
Oh.
I just want to verify one thing. So there was, sorry, Thomas, you sent out 33 letters and 18 replied. Is that what you said? Okay, thank you. That's all.
Okay. All right. All right. The next one. Oh, Kaylee.
If we're going back to the letters, I do have a question. If anyone responded, if we sent out a thing asking if they wanted to designate instead of list, if anybody took that figure.
It was in the letter, but nobody took us up on that. Just
nobody rose to that bait.
You know why? Oh, because people don't understand.
Yeah, we may have to. We may. This may be sort of next year's project is to move from listed to designated. All right, Kathy. The next item you put on, and it has to do with the private tree bylaw.
Right, and really, I guess. Since I don't even know if it's since then, but this came about as a direct result of accessories building issue where some heritage trees, and although they're not designated heritage, they are in a historic neighborhood, and they are approximately 85 to 100-year-old trees were damaged as a result of an accessory building going in. And what that did was it made us think about, and not just us, but many other people have been reaching out that we don't have a private tree bylaw in the city anywhere. So people can cut down every single tree on their property, whether it's a boundary tree, a border tree, whatever tree. And so we had concerns surrounding that, and Councillor Harris put forward a motion at council. They had a meeting in August, I think, asking to have a look at what potentially we could do to try to capture when accessory suites or accessory buildings are being built. How can we make sure that boundary trees are protected? Because right now they are not. And this is very important to a lot of people. We had, I've attended many neighborhood meetings and committee of adjustment meetings. People are very upset about what's happening. And so I just really, it was to raise awareness for the whole group. I don't know whether any of you have read any of the articles that have been written in, Barrie Today, in the Barrie Advance. They're doing sort of a story about it. And, some of it is, I think, simple solutions, but we'll see what comes out of the staff report to council. I think is coming early September, maybe next week or the week after. And so, I'm just not sure if we as a committee can do something more.
Well,
And how do we do? Because heritage trees or a tree canopy in general is extremely important in the city. And so is there something through a motion or just discussion that we could be doing?
okay. Sarah and then Kaylee.
So this is where our heritage districts would definitely come in, because you can note mature trees like the 100-year-old trees as a heritage feature. So then that would make it so if you did want to do that accessory building, not only would you have to check for like actual structures, but you would have to make sure that all elements of the district are. So if it's something that the neighborhood is really passionate about, perhaps we could ask them to give us a directive to look into creating that for their neighborhood. Especially, I know Allendale is really full of those lovely mature trees. And I know in our budget, we talked about it at the beginning, that there is budget for having a professional give us a recommendation on how to preserve things and do the heritage buildings, like that designate buildings. So we could perhaps look into the neighborhood as one of our first things that we get a professional in to do, because that's kind of the easiest way to protect a large swath, and especially trees. Like if you want to designate a tree, it has to be on designated property, the building has to be done, and then you sort of add in that the trees would be done. But you'd have to do that per individual lot, and that would take a lot. Where if we can do the entire district, that would be something that could be done, not easily, but it would encompass a lot more than doing it individually.
Right, Kaylee, and then Tammy.
This is sort of one thing that the accessory buildings I had sort of mentioned to Thomas before. I don't know if we can say it now, but it kind of goes with it, is that for some of these buildings, there's archaeological potential that I'm assuming, because this is not my professional opinion, because I don't have the proper paperwork, but there could be potential for archaeology, and it's not necessarily being addressed. It's just sort of these big basements are being dug out. So I had wondered if the city was, or we could sort of suggest they look into, like the county did, and it has been done. They just would have to probably purchase it. The archaeological potential map. So it would sort of give the city a starting idea of where there could be archaeological potential, especially in older areas. And we're not just talking about like the indigenous populations. There will probably be historic sites as well. So I don't know if that's something we can discuss now with the accessory buildings or at another meeting.
I think that may be a good question for Thomas to answer.
Thank you, Chair. So yeah, we can certainly connect with the county, I guess, to ask them for that information. I remember I met with them a while back when they had just finished up their work, and they expressed the potential for a partnership that way. So I'd have to have a conversation with their management team of how we could use that. And that's the other thing, right? It's how we would use that, right? There needs to be some sort of applicable law for staff in the building department when they're reviewing a building permit for an accessory dwelling unit to go and check the archaeological potential map. See, that's it, archaeological potential is usually checked through a planning application, not through a building permit. So there's a few, I guess, disconnected wheels that need to be brought together. And I'm not entirely sure what the best way to do that is. And we probably need to have some conversations about how to do that. It's the challenge really is just because it's around building permits and the Ontario Building Code. They operate in such a specific way that we'd have to find a way for there to be review through that building process.
Okay, I saw Tammy, you wanted to say something.
Yes.
Go ahead.
At the June meeting, I don't know if this is in relations to, the committee passed a motion about development services, investigate the feasibility of, it's related to heritage conservation districts and report back to Heritage Barrie. That recommendation hasn't gone. It'll go to city building on, I believe it's September 20th, because it was in June, the meeting, so we haven't met. So I don't know if that has anything to do with kind of in relation to what you're talking about. So that's all I wanted to bring up.
Okay, no, that's a good point, and I think that that will happen in due course. Just a couple of things. The zoning question on accessory buildings, accessory suites, is, I think, tentatively scheduled to come to Planning Committee on September the 21st.
Okay.
That's the schedule, and it'll get kicked around there at Planning Committee and then end up going to Council the week after. And certainly, I suppose, one of the things that we could ask at Planning Committee is, how do we include a requirement that an archaeological survey be done if there is a high potential for archaeological artifacts to be found? I think that's certainly a very fair thing to ask anyway. In terms of the trees, first of all, I think the law has recently been clarified that if it's a boundary tree, in other words, if the trunk of the tree is on the boundary of a property, you need both parties to sign to say that that tree can be removed. That's the way the law works at this point.
No.
Now, the work that the planning department, I guess, is doing, or somebody is doing, is looking at how do we protect our tree canopy in the city, and that has to do with private. That's the whole private tree bylaw. We don't, as Kathy said, we don't have one. So right now you could cut down any tree you want on your property, unless it's a boundary tree, of course, then you need your neighbor's permission to do that.
You can.
Now, and I have had some discussions with Councillor Harris and others about this, and the city of Mississauga and the town of Oakville and many others have private tree cutting bylaws, and that is a fairly straightforward kind of bylaw that says before you build anything, before you cut anything, you have to get an arborist to do a report, and you have to put up hoardings, and you have to do this and do that. And I'm not an expert in that area, but it's a fairly convoluted and very effective way of protecting trees. And you will see it in Oakville or in Mississauga. Certainly, I've had experience there as in my consulting practice, where there's quite a bit of work done to put hoarding around these trees and make sure that everything's protected, and it seems to work pretty well. So I'm hoping that we will get a staff report at some point I don't know what the schedule is at this point. It's not connected to the accessory building question because it's much bigger than that. And I don't think it may be late in September, but I don't know. There's no schedule set for it at the moment. There is some discussion that there may be some discussion at the next city building committee about that, but that agenda hasn't been fixed yet. All right, so those are sort of, if that's enlightening, that's great. Sarah, Thomas, and then Kathy.
I think not sure if this would make it to this topic or now we're creating a new topic, but if we were talking about the heritage districts to protect the trees, would it be of benefit if we made a presentation for, let's say, our next committee up or for city council to sort of inform them on it? Because it sounds like a scary thing, but it can be not scary at all, and we can adjust it so that the city can still grow but we can protect things. Would that be something we could do, and would it be of benefit that we could perhaps educate, because we're supposed to advise city council on things, so perhaps this is something that we could talk to them about?
Well, and certainly that's appropriate. I think that we've already kind of done that in the sense that we've asked staff to take a good hard look and make a recommendation to us in terms of how we implement heritage districts. And certainly as part of our new official plan, there's policies in there for heritage districts. So it seems to me that work is evolving as we are speaking about it. Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to say that we do have that item going forward to get approval from council. And I agree with you, Sarah, in that we potentially could come forward to council, but it would be best to come to council informed. We would go to them and say, we've spent $8,000, we've hired a consultant. These are the areas that they recommend establishing heritage conservation districts. Here are the pros and cons of doing so. Please pass a resolution, direct staff to do that. So we are just at the beginning of that. So we have to find a consultant to help us do that. We'd have to have the money and so on and so forth. But I do think it's a good idea. And the other thing I was just going to speak to, I just wanted to have correction, is that the city does have a tree preservation bylaw, and it applies to woodlots within the city of Barrie. If one tree is part of that woodlot, that bylaw applies. And I'm just reading this right off our website. So if it's half an acre or in size or larger, so if you're not part of a woodlot that's of that size, then the tree preservation bylaw does not kick in, and you don't need to get a tree removal permit.
Yeah.
So we do have this tree removal bylaw. So this conversation that we are having about these trees, our management team knows that this conversation is happening at this committee meeting today. And we'll likely go back and have a conversation about it as well, because we might not want to put it in the staff report coming forward for whatever reason. We want to make sure that goes forward without holding it up to add a few other items, particularly if we already have a tree removals bylaw in place. We might just look at it and go, we need to revise that bylaw rather than tinkering with zoning. And the other thing I wanted to point out, and then perhaps there'll be a bit of a devil's advocate here, is that the secondary or detached accessory dwelling units are intended to help with housing affordability. So if we ask people to do archaeological studies, which I'm not sure how much they go for these days, Kaylee and Sarah, please educate me on that. It will increase the cost, and people will bring that up. And the other thing is that tree removal permits and requiring an arborist to go on your property, again, it's another increased cost. So it's just, I feel like I'm just introducing complexity, but it's just something I felt it needs to be said. And I don't really have a solution. I just needed to make the committee aware that, there's going to be both sides.
We hear it.
You do. A couple of things on the boundary trees right now. The boundary trees on infill are not dealt with in the same way as if they go forward to the Committee of Adjustment. So if there is a property or an infill going to be developed, and it actually has to go to committee of adjustment for a variance, that's where they can ask for a tree inventory and tree preservation plan, which they can do. If there is no variance required, then there is no tree preservation plan and there is no tree inventory, which is mind-boggling, because all I think it really needs to be is on a form. So on the form, when you go to get your permit, right now it simply says, you know, is this property a listed property? Is it designated, or is it within? We have nothing that says, is it within a historic neighborhood? Maybe it's as simple as adding a question, and you know, there is a requirement for, why is there a requirement for a committee of adjustment to do a tree inventory and protection plan, but not for anything else on infill? And people are cutting down boundary trees.
Well, I guess the committee of adjustment can impose a condition, but the intent of the tree bylaw, as far as I'm concerned, is that the tree bylaw itself imposes that condition on every development. In other words, you can't cut a tree down until you have cleared whatever the tree bylaw says you need to clear. And I recognize that the discussion is going to be, oh, well, this is going to increase the cost, or, you know, and this is supposed to be affordable. Have you checked what the rents are on these units? None of them are affordable. We've built, I don't know how many, and I think there's none of them that meet the affordability test. So that's just a smokescreen. It's not until we get an agreement between the owner and the tenant that the rent will never increase, and it'll be so that somebody making $15 an hour can live there. They're not going to be affordable. None of them are. Okay, you didn't pay your entrance fee to listen to me pontificate. You have any other discussion on this? Thomas, is your hand up, or is that still an old hand? Oh, your hand is up. Go ahead, Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. And I just wanted to reiterate what you just said, Councillor, is that there is two streams. Kathy, you've really hit the nail on the head. Committee of Adjustment operates under the realm of the Planning Act. They do veer a little bit here and there, but really they're looking at development applications of the Planning Act, where the official plan kicks in and zoning bylaw kicks in. The tree bylaw applies citywide, but is not implemented by the Committee of Adjustment. We have another division. So you've got the building stream and you've got the planning stream. And right now we're having sort of a parallel universe of things, and we want to make sure that we're in the same universe. So that's why, you know, I'm sensing frustration in what you're saying, and I just wanted to point out that what you're touching on is exactly sort of the issues. That there's two streams here. One is the planning, one's building, and we just need to make sure that we get connected. And there's another thing I think you mentioned, that in terms of building permit issuance, there is, through the planning process, we have implemented, for example, this Allendale site plan control area. Whenever a site plan or a building permit is issued there, it is under review. The building team, to their credit, now come to me, and when they know that there's a heritage area, or that when something even looks like a heritage building, they'll come to me and they'll ask me for comment. And you know, I have to recognize my limits in terms of what I do as a planner, but whenever there is an issue, I usually flag it to them, or just say, you know, make sure that this person is aware of this and that. And so there's definitely been some internal communication that we're working on addressing some of these things.
Okay. Any further discussion on this item? All right. Let's move on then. Our next item is historic neighborhood street signs, and I think we covered that already in our budget discussion. So let's move on then to the status of listing on Municipal Heritage Register. So there are 4 of them. Thomas, do you want to take that away? And fill us in
Thank
on
you,
what the
Chair.
status is?
Thank you, Chair. We've only got 2 for an actual application that are on this agenda. The first one is 125 Toronto Street. And I can pull it up, I guess, on Google Street View, but let's see here. 125 Toronto. So 125 Toronto is a single detached 1-story dwelling. It's a story and a half, I guess. Let me see if I can go ahead and show this to the committee. I don't know if I have rights to share my screen anymore. Tammy, do I have? I do have the right to do so. Just 1 second. There we go. Everybody should be seeing my screen. Can everybody see my screen, or am I?
Yep, there you
Yes,
are.
okay. 125 Toronto Street, there it is. It doesn't have a common name or anything like that, like some homes do. So I've completed as part of the addition of buildings or properties onto the Municipal Heritage Register. We do have sort of a form that I look at when I review an application, and we have a number of heritage attributes. And in my view, this property is representative of an early example of construction. It is also important to defining, maintaining, and supporting the character of the area. And it is also visually and historically linked to its surroundings, being the historic neighborhood that it's in. And it is kind of unique because it is a neoclassical bungalow. I spent some time looking up different archaeological styles, and built around in the 1920s. So you're just getting out of sort of the Victorian Gothic looking before you get into the Victory housing and then bungalows. You had this sort of time where you had neoclassical bungalows that were a form of architecture that came out of California. So you had this, we're about 10 years behind. California thought it was cool in 1910, around there, and we thought it was cool in the 1920s. So we're a little bit behind in terms of thinking what's cool. But so that's a little bit neat history I found on that property, and my recommendation was that this property is added to the Heritage Register. And I don't know, let me just confirm, I don't think I have pictures, or maybe I do. 1 second. I think it's just the exterior of the building, yeah. So this is the images that were provided by the applicant.
All right. All right. Can I have a motion to add 125 Toronto Street to the Heritage Register, a listed property? And of course, because the screen is being shared, I can't see everybody. But
I will just stop that for 1 second.
oh, there you are. All right. So do we have a motion to that effect? Craig, seconded by Shelley. Thank you very much. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, that carries. Thank you. Okay, next. Kathy wanted to say something.
I just wanted to say this is the owner of Zuzu, a downtown ladies business. So this is her home. So it is quite and Thomas, did you say this was neoclassical?
It is, my goodness, I forgot. I believe neoclassical bungalow, yes.
Right.
Because we have bungalows that are in the 60s and 70s, completely different style. So this is neoclassical.
This is quite nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thomas, you had one more on that?
I do. We have 84 Cumberland, and I'm just pulling up the street view as well, and I will share my screen momentarily. Oh, I'm not getting a great one here. Okay, there we go. And sharing my screen 2. There we go. So everybody should be able to see 84 Cumberland.
There it is.
So again, I fill out these forms for these properties as they come in. It's a single detached 2-story dwelling. Doesn't have a common name or anything like that. And the heritage or the cultural heritage value I found, it really comes from the property being important, defining, maintaining, supporting the character of the area, as well as being physically and functionally linked to its surroundings. So those are the two reasons why, and it is a classic sort of Victorian home. We are not sure what the major constructions or date of construction was, or we also do not know the builder. The one thing that I did notice that is unique about this building is that it does have this arched brickwork above the windows, which is a little bit more expensive to build. So it's not your typical sort of window or just regular brick. They paid specifically more to have these different color bricks, which I thought was unique. And what else did I have on my list here? So it's got its original L-shaped layout, as these buildings typically do, from the front of the building. The rear of the building has been modified slightly through additions. So I don't expect the actual building has been shaped, but maybe they punched a hole or used an existing building to have some additions. But I don't think those additions take away from the heritage value of the building. And one thing that usually these buildings have, you'll see sort of the gingerbread millwork here underneath the soffits, and I don't see that here. And perhaps because they have this brick pattern, they decided not to install that when the property was built, or it never had it. We don't really know, but I just noticed that it's not there. So based on that, I think this property should be added to the Municipal Heritage Register.
Okay, and I think, Thomas, one of the things that I noted was one of the windows. It has this above the window. It has a little pattern as well in yellow brick. So that's of interest as well. Anyway, can I have a motion then to add 84 Cumberland to the Heritage Register? Kathy, seconded by Deborah. Thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. That's carried. All right.
Okay.
Sarah.
I just was wondering about the Collier Church. I know that it was going through the motions, and I just was wondering if anybody had an update on which committee it's currently in.
Let me ask you this. My memory is lousy. Did we recommend it for inclusion?
Yeah.
We did. Okay.
A while back. I thought it was at City Building, but now I can't remember where I put my notes.
Okay. Thomas?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we do. I do have a direction memo from Council dated June 28, 2021 to add Collier Street United Church, being 112 Collier Street, onto the Municipal Heritage Register. So it is now officially a listed property. You'll note that I've been updating the register as often as I can, but we don't post pictures, so it looks kind of empty, because if you go on the property and try to take pictures, because of the beautiful mature trees, it's hard to actually get a shot of the building. So we wait until October or September to go out and take pictures. So you'll see it on there. It's just, it'll be an empty page and it'll say forthcoming. I do have, Chair, an update for the committee on the other two items,
Yes,
or
please.
sub items under 2.6. So the Simcoe County Gull, we know that the province is supportive of the municipality designating this building. So it is on our list to do. We are currently working with a consultant, being Sue Murdoch, on the designation of a property downtown. That has been, and a property owner has come forward and asked for the building to be designated. So I can't officially go into details just yet, because there has been no notice intention to designate just yet, but we are working on that. Another sort of complexity is that the province has recently amended the Ontario Heritage Act and introduced sort of a new process or new steps into designating a building. So Sue and I are going to navigate that process together with this property downtown, and then we'll likely go and pick up the Simcoe County Gull. Just because it's provincially owned, it's already federally and provincially recognized. There's no, to me, it was more important to get the one downtown designated first, and then we'll look to designating the Gull.
Sure.
And the Barrie Armory, unfortunately, I've tried many times to get in touch with somebody from Department of National Defense, from Parks Canada. And I only got a response from somebody from Parks Canada saying that they're going to pass it on to the next person, and it's been months. So I'm not entirely sure if that is a fruitful venture at this point, considering there's other buildings downtown that we could look at designating.
Well,
Yeah, and I don't think the armory is going anywhere at the moment, but
No.
I think that at some point when we're flush, we probably should just bloody well designate it and be done with it, you know. Kathy.
I was just going to say, maybe we should send the letter off to the Minister of Culture.
I think it's a
Or is it like to his office for help?
Or our local MP.
yeah, that would be a next step to
Yeah.
perhaps to go that political route. Absolutely.
All right. Well, there's no crisis involved in that one. I think we should focus on our downtown and then the goal, and let's move those forward if we can. All right. Any further discussion on those?
Sorry. I just wanted a quick question on 84 Cumberland, Thomas. Did they actually send you an application?
Mm-hmm.
They did, and they couldn't tell you how old the house was?
I think there was in the application form, I guess, but it's
Okay.
I don't
Yeah,
put that on
so
the form unless we know, unless it's, you know, like in the brick, or there's documents that say
Right.
that it's built a certain date, and
Okay.
we say it's old. It's
Right.
400 years old.
Like circa 1880 old?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I guess, yeah.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah, because the two houses next are that era. So that would be, and we know that for a fact for the others. So
Yeah, we can put on the plaque, when we give them the plaque, we can put 1880-ish.
okay.
That's a good idea. Yeah. All right. Thomas, the next item is development applications under review, the designation of 125 Dunlop Street East.
Yeah, well, I guess that's the building I had just mentioned. We were looking at that 125 and 127, they're same address, one property. So there is already a designated building next door. This is part of the boys block. So currently half block is designated. So we're just looking at extending that designation to the entire building. So
I think
you'll
that's
see.
Bohemia.
Sorry?
Is that Bohemia?
Hmm.
The restaurant.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll be Sue and I will be working on getting all the proper paperwork together and issuing the notice, and of course there's a public process. So once the notice is issued, there's a clock, and we have to work to that clock, and it sort of goes off on its own from there.
Yep. Good. Pleased to hear that. All right. 2.8, we have Lieutenant Governor's Ontario Heritage Award. You have something on that, Thomas? I know that Councillor Harris was sort of working on that, but
I don't have an update myself. I think Councillor Harris was sort of leading the charge, but I just remember looking up the deadline, and it is coming up. And these packages are usually pretty demanding to put together. There's going to be competition from other municipalities and other organizations. So if I would suggest that if we don't have anybody at this point in time, that look to next year perhaps.
I think that's wise. I think it's a question of where we expend our energies, and I think at this point this is not a high priority. So, any further discussion on that?
I would just maybe say, Chair, just maybe let's check in with Councillor Harris, because he may have been working on something in the background. We're just not aware.
Yeah. Okay. I will ask him about that. Actually, rather than me do it, Thomas, would you mind doing that and just checking with him?
Yeah, I'll email him right now.
Okay. Appreciate that. All right. And then the last item on our agenda is updates. We have 4 items there. The reason I put them on the agenda is not because I'm looking for a fulsome report. It's just so that these are little items that we are working on, and we just don't want to lose them. Does anybody have any comments or questions or thoughts or updates on any of those items under 2.9? Correct.
Yeah, B, the planting trees in Heritage Park. I did have some discussions with the Navy cadets about tree planting. I also had a discussion with Kiwanis Club, and they would like to be involved in helping support that idea. So there is some definite interest. And so I'm just going to kind of pursue that to see what we can do. See if we can get some more interest in some different groups helping to do the trees and the cadets helping plant.
Okay, thank you. Thomas, Kathy, and then Shelley. Oh, and then Sarah.
Thank you, Chair. I guess I can speak to item C or 29C, public art and the Allendale GO Station. So I haven't had much progress in this just due to capacity, but we know we do have public art funding protocol or process at the city now. So I'm supposed to be connecting with somebody who has been hired under Stephanie Schlichter's group to facilitate and move that process along. Like I said, I haven't had the ability to work on that yet. I'm at capacity, but I suspect over the next few weeks, as certain things drop off, I'll be able to pick this up. And I want to pick this up because there is a site plan application for the Allendale Mobility Hub in the works. So I would like the two items to sort of work together hand in hand, because the committee had expressed having public art at our mobility hub. So I will be picking that up so the two items can sort of work hand in hand or move forward hand in hand.
Yeah.
I guess I also have an update for 29B, which is correspondence with BDAR. I think they're open for us to come and do a presentation. I do remember that, I think, Craig, you were probably told, Craig and Kathy. I don't exactly know. I can't remember who it was who agreed to do it, but it was a committee member, or at least two, that agreed to go. And so they're flexible on dates. I think they are meeting. I don't know if they're meeting in person, but they're happy for us to come. That's all for me. Thank you.
Yes, if I recall correctly, I think that was Craig and Kathy both were interested in doing that. So I think yes, that works. That's the way this committee works. It's voluntold. So maybe Kathy, if you could sort of pull that together with BDAR. And
I've been a little busy. I think maybe somebody else could do this. I'm kidding. But I would like a partner in crime, and Craig, if that's you, to help with, it will just use the same presentation that we use for everything else, sure. Really. And the interesting part of this was even talking to a real estate person who has her home listed. She was confused about listing and designation, and talking about how she wouldn't recommend designating because your insurance rates go up, and so it's really is about educating the real estate sector in a way about what we're doing, but also myths and things that are true or not true.
Sure. All right. If you and Craig can put your heads together and do a presentation to BDAR at some point, that would be useful. All right. I forget my order, but Sarah.
Yeah, I just was going to say to Craig about the trees. I just wondered if you contacted the Legion or Borden, because like a lot of our soldiers would have gone.
I have not. I haven't contacted the Legion. So I guess that's something I could do.
That's certainly a great suggestion.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right, Shelley.
I was just going to say to Craig that I know that the Kempenfeld Rotary Club is looking for a place to plant some trees. They were trying to work with the city last year, and because of COVID, it didn't come true. So they have committee members that are looking for that as part of an environmental committee, another association to work with, or another group.
Great, thank you, everybody.
Shelley, if you wouldn't mind giving me that contact as well, because there are some other opportunities for tree planting as well.
Will do.
Okay, appreciate it. Kathy.
And then Craig, did Craig just disappear? Oh, there. What about in terms of budgeting, Living Green and or reaching out to the Bradford Garden Gallery to see if they might partner in some way?
Yeah.
Saplings or.
Yeah, I have contacted Living Green and
Okay.
So they're aware of it. So I have been talking, I guess I should have mentioned that. I have been talking to Living Green. Yeah.
Yeah, Andy would be quite keen on that, I would think. All right, any other items on our little do not forget list?
Some.
Okay. Kathy, and then
Sorry, I
Craig.
was just gonna say.
Sorry, Craig. Go ahead.
Sorry, historic art on utility box wraps. I think we were working on that, and then it's just sort of because like I suggested it and made the boxes, but then it was like, well, maybe some of the counselors would have it in different areas, and I think Shelley had some ideas on price. It just kind of fizzled along. So, and I know Councillor Harris was very supportive of this. So, that's something that I think, we can do. We just have to make sure like it doesn't just disappear, because I think it would be well received. So.
Yeah, and that's the reason for putting it on the end of the budget, or on the end of the agenda, so that we don't lose these things. But I'm just thinking that maybe we ought to consider a budget item next year and maybe do one or two, because that may be the only way that we really get them done. Thomas, did you have your hand up? Or?
Thank you, Chair. I did for a smidgen of a second, and I was sort of just thinking of where you are going, as that I think the committee is interested in this. Councillor Harris is interested in this. So let's just put it on our agenda for next year, just considering where our funds are at, where our budget is at, and just go for it. Let's pick a number of boxes that we like, that or don't like, and just sort of selfishly just go and get them done. And if other councillors or other communities or neighborhoods are interested in those, then we can pick that up there. Sort of how we were going with our street signs. We just said, let's just get as many street signs as we can done. And if people want more, then we'll look at that at that time.
Yeah, I think that's the right approach. Kathy, did you have your hand up? Or?
No.
No.
I did and didn't and did and forgot, and I don't know.
That's okay. No problem there. All right. That brings us to the conclusion of our agenda. This was a long agenda, and I'm very impressed how quickly you guys managed all these things, and we made, I think, some really good decisions. So that brings us to the end. So I'll adjourn. We stand adjourned, and we will see each other again on October the 6th. Which
or
is
our stakeholder meeting.
Our stakeholder meeting.
Our stakeholder meeting.
Yeah. So Craig and Kathy are bringing the stakes. All right. Yeah. Well, good night, everybody. Thank you.
Right.
All right. Thank you, Chair. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Good night, everyone.
Thomas, before you go, sorry. Can I drop by tomorrow at around 3:30 to pick up? And do I need to make an appointment?
No, yeah, no, you could just drop in. I'll have them ready in the morning.
In the planning department?
Yep.
Okay, so I could drop by in the morning?
Well, I'll have them ready in the morning. So if you want to come by, 9:30ish, 10 o'clock, that should be fine too.
We're taking our grandson to his first day of school, so it'll probably be a bit later than that.
Okay. Well, I'm in all day, so I'm planner of the day tomorrow, so I can help you with your fence and deck.
Okay. Yeah, I'm getting, that's what I'm getting